Erik Renander, Portfolio Manager Edge Invest Africa Opportunities Fund. The volatility of the fund has been substantially lower since August 2016. Did you change something in the investment process?
The investment process is still the same. We still travel around Africa, visiting companies, doing a lot of fundamental earnings, trying to find good stock ideas. But what's changed is the portfolio construction and the risk management process at the end. So after we found the good ideas, we do a lot of work to test the portfolio sensitivity to different factors, make sure it's not too exposed to a commodity price or a currency or interest rates. So we try to make sure it's diversified, not too sensitive to certain factors. And also we try to make sure we take some profits as we get to our price targets. We have strict price target rules. And so the portfolio is very bottom up based on stock picking, and the volatility is coming down.
European perception on Trump is quite negative. What's your view on Trump's impact on emerging markets?
Yeah, I think actually Trump should be pretty good for emerging markets, and we're actually seeing that this year. Emerging markets are doing well. Africa's doing well. First of all, Trump's trying to improve growth in the U.S. by reducing taxes, reducing regulations, and any pickup in growth in the U.S. is good for the world, and it's good for emerging markets. Second, Trump wants to stimulate investment into infrastructure in the U.S. through tax incentives. And so if there's a pickup in infrastructure investment in the U.S., it should follow through to commodities and commodity demand and commodity prices, which is especially good for emerging markets and really good for Africa. So African markets are quite sensitive to commodity prices, and so that would be good. And third, I think we're seeing that Trump wants a weak dollar. He wants U.S. manufacturing to be competitive with Europe, with Japan, with China, and so he wants a weak dollar, and that would be really good for emerging markets. And it's something people aren't really positioned for, so I think it could be a surprise that dollar is weak, and that's good for EM. But then finally, I'll just add one last thing. I think more importantly than Trump, people should be focused on China. When you're in the emerging markets, the impact of China is much more important. You feel China, you don't feel the U.S. much in Africa, but you do see the impact of China. China's growing, and I think that's going to be much more important.
Erik, can you describe the current positioning of the fund? What are the themes, stocks that you are implementing in the portfolio?
Yeah, we're always working bottom up and on very company-specific ideas, but some themes are emerging from our work. Our biggest exposure right now is to Egypt. Last year, there was a big, Egypt did a lot of changes and reforms. Egypt went to the IMF for a bailout. They devalued their currency. They're balancing the budget. They're making it easier to do business in Egypt. And we found a lot of attractive companies that are trading at 6 to 7 times earnings and that are growing. And I think there's a lot of upside to those. So that's one of our big exposures, and it's something that it's been performing well, and I think it's got a lot more to go. Second theme is actually mining companies. We have two good things happening. One, the commodity prices have bounced, so that's helping revenues. But the companies have cut a lot of costs. They reduced investment, and so you have revenues up, costs down, and the companies are generating a lot of cash flow. And yet the valuations on these stocks are still very low because people are still scared that the commodity cycle isn't recovering. It may turn down again. But I think we'll see as time progresses and commodities continue to stay at current levels or even go higher, that people will see these cash flows are sustainable. The third thing I would maybe talk about is infrastructure companies. We have 3 companies in the portfolio that build power infrastructure. They build power plants, high transmission lines, transformers. And this is a big theme in Africa, building out power and reducing the power deficit. And these companies all have record order books. There's a lot of funding for infrastructure in Africa from the World Bank, the IMF, China, infrastructure funds. And so there's a lot of power work being done. And these stocks also trading at 5 to 8 times earnings, which if these stocks were listed in Europe, they'd probably be 14 to 15 times earnings. So again, I think there's too much of a discount. I think these things can go up a lot.